The song is Slave to Love, and that's Mickey Rourke with Kim Basinger. It looks like your ordinary movie love affair, but it isn't. Not in 9.5 weeks. One of the new movies we'll be reviewing this week. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. In addition to 9.5 weeks, we'll also be reviewing a new teenage romance with Molly Ringwald called Pretty in Pink. And we'll also take a look at Trouble in Mind, a strange love story of lost souls featuring Chris Christopherson, Keith Carradine, and Geneviève Bujold. But first, Roger starts with a thriller called The Hitcher.
Here is a movie that pretends to say one thing and is really saying another thing altogether. The Hitcher tells the story of a young man who's driving alone through the deserts of the Southwest when he picks up a mysterious hitchhiker, a man who is a mass murderer and who has somehow decided to frame this kid with his crimes. Here's the scene that sets up the movie as the young man begins to figure out how much trouble he's in.
What's so funny?
That's what the other guy said.
Who's the other guy?
The guy who was driving that car back there. The guy who picked me up before you did.
Was that him in the car?
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Couldn't have walked very far.
Why is that?
Because I cut off his legs. And his arms.
And his head. And I'm gonna do the same to you.
That's Rutger Hauer as the hitchhiker. He turns into a Superman in this movie, able to be everywhere and know everything, and in this scene survive suicidal stunts. Now, it looks in that scene like The Hitcher is a high-speed action movie, and it is. Technically, it's very well made. That scene was well made. But what is this movie saying? That older man tortures that boy all through the movie. He plays tricks on him, he tries to kill him, he frames him for murder, he kills his girlfriend. He completely takes charge of that young boy's life. He is evil personified. And at the end of the movie, what happens? Something very sick happens. There is the unmistakable implication that that kid sort of liked that treatment and that he might become the next Hitcher. Later in the show, we have a movie named 9.5 Weeks that's gotten a lot of publicity for its story of kinky sex. But if you look beneath the surface of The Hitcher, this movie is 10 times more perverted, more heartless, and more cruel. It's a deeply cynical movie that doesn't even have the courage to admit what it's really about, which is gay sadomasochism. And I don't know which I hated more in this movie, the cynicism or the dishonesty.
Well, Roger, I can't quantify the hatred I have for this movie, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
Because I get paid to do that. Very early on, and we saw that first scene, the dismemberment scene. That's the hook. We're supposed to now get interested. This guy's tough. We didn't need the explicit. I didn't even like the language use of this dismemberment. That's how short my fuse has become on violence when I see it in service of something that is nothing more than violence. This film is nothing more than a dozen ways to chop up a person. That's really all it's about. And there's a scene in here, and I want to get real specific about it, where a woman is tied up between two trucks, and I'm figuring there's no way that they're going to actually have the guy step on the...
I never believed
never thought I would ever see that in a movie.
She's pulled,
her limbs are pulled apart. This is what American movies have come to.
And although she's brought in allegedly as the love interest, there was never any love interest between her and the kid, because all of the love interest in this movie, and the movie is not honest enough to admit it, is between these two people, and they're using this violent game as some sort of perverted sex in a way that the movie will not acknowledge.
And I want to acknowledge some of the people behind this movie, because I always like to have them come out from behind the rocks. Silver Screen Partners, which is basically a tax shelter deal, HBO Films, new to the making of movies, and TriStar, a relatively new film company. These are all new, fresh money in Hollywood. And they're all new, fresh money, and they've all been taken for a ride, and they're all taking us for a ride. They're putting garbage on the air, and that's what happens sometimes with these new people playing the movie game.
I don't think we like this movie. Coming up next, the problems of a poor girl in a high school that's full of rich kids.
I'm just overreacting, aren't I?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, a good kiss can scramble anybody's brains.
Pretty in Pink is the latest film from the pen, or maybe the word processor, of John Hughes, who has given us such funny and sensitive films as 16 Candles and The Breakfast Club. But then there was last year's terribly disappointing Weird Science, and sad to say now, another flimsy film, Pretty in Pink, detailing the problems of a poor girl who feels rejected, and she is rejected by the many wealthy kids who dominate her high school. The story gets rolling after one of the rich kids does ask her for a date, but her loyal, puppy dog-like friend, who also is an outcast, tells her that she's being a traitor to their cause by considering the date. Molly Ringwald plays poor Andy, stuck now between an old friend and a new flame.
You can't do this and respect yourself. You can't.
Well, I'll make that decision, all right?
Sure, you can do what you want.
You know, you're talking like that just because I'm going out with Blaine.
Blaine? His name is Blaine? Oh, that's a major appliance. That's not a name.
Just because I'm going out with Blaine doesn't mean I can't be friends with you. I mean, it doesn't change the way I feel about you.
Oh, that's very nice. I'm glad. Here's the point, Annie. I'm not particularly concerned with whether or not you like me. Because I live to like you, and I can't like you anymore.
His name's Blaine.
One of the toughest things to accept in the movie is the fine character actor Harry Dean Stanton as her father. No resemblance at all between them, but he does offer some good advice.
Richie, it's kind of stupid. It's just his family has a lot of money.
Oh, well, is that a problem?
I don't know, it's just weird. You know, his friends have a lot of money, and he has a lot of money. He drives a BMW. I don't know. I'm not really sure if they're going to accept me.
Well, what does that mean? I mean, you like him, he likes you. What his friends think shouldn't make any difference.
Yeah, but it's not just his friends. It's my friends, too. It's everybody. I'm just not real secure about it.
Well, so take the heat. I mean, you like him, he likes you. It's worth it.
Is it?
And they live happily ever after? No way. Not after Blaine is persuaded by his friends to reject the poor girl and not take her to the prom.
You have the guts to tell me the truth. Just say it.
I'm not lying.
Tell me.
What?
Tell me.
What do you want to hear?
Just tell me.
What?
You're ashamed to be seen with
No,
me.
I am
You're
not.
ashamed to go out with me. You're afraid. You're terrified. Your rich friends won't approve. Just say it. Just tell me the truth.
Now that's a sad scene to watch, because Molly Ringwald is acting her heart out there, and she's very appealing, but all in the service of what really is a dumb movie. The story is so predictable. Off again, on again relationship. And John Cryer, who we saw in the first scene, who plays Ducky, usually her lapdog friend doing kind of goofy little things, is truly annoying in a one-note performance played, I think, much too loudly. And as for the portrayal of the rich wasps in this film, you saw one of them hiding there in the little hallway with his little jacket and shirt. That portrayal is as racist as some black men are saying lately the color purple is. I think that Molly Ringwald is a wonderful young actress, but she is totally wasted, in my opinion, in Pretty in Pink.
I like this movie. I thought that its heart was in the right place. I like John Cryer's performance as Ducky because I felt he was a case study for the same kind of kid I was in high school, the class clown. You know, the pretty girl won't go out with you because you're the captain of the football team. You talk her into going out with you. And I found that this movie was so accurate in being able to remember how those sorts of things went on.
But Roger, I know about being the class clown because I was one of those too.
I imagine you were.
Yeah, but Roger, that's why we're both in the same job, oddly enough. But I'll tell you this, I was never over at the girl's house every single day lying on her bed going crazy. The class clown hangs back a lot farther.
This is the class...
Now, come on, you didn't do that either. You didn't do that either, and I know you do it because you would say now if you did it.
This is 1986, and people hang out together a little bit more than they did in 1956.
Not like that.
I felt that the whole story of this movie, sure, it's predictable. She wants to go out with a guy.
Real predictable.
He's stuck up, then he asks her out, then he doesn't ask her out. That's what goes on in high school.
Roger,
this whole business.
You know
I think more hearts are broken over the senior prom than anything else that happens.
There's no question, but here's the way to play that. We've seen dozens of senior prom movies. This thing offers nothing fresh, just as you're saying, lots of senior prom movies. I would have had this woman reject the rich guy and go back to her own culture and say, you rich people,
okay,
you
I got
stink.
news for you, Gene. That would have been just as predictable. It would have just simply been a different ending.
Different ending and
character.
unpredictable.
Really great. You ought to get your own word processor. Next
I do have one. I'm going to use it.
A strange sexual obsession that lasts for 9.5 weeks.
You're taking a hell of a lot for granted, aren't you?
Am I?
Well, either that or you're practicing to be a maid at the Holiday Inn.
Our next movie is named 9.5 Weeks, and it tells the story of a man named John and a woman named Elizabeth who meet by accident one day and get involved in a strange love affair, a sadomasochistic relationship in which he tells her what to do and she doesn't. At first, their relationship is just a harmless game, sort of a sophisticated Manhattan flirtation, as in this scene, which takes place on a houseboat not long after their first meeting.
Blood on the leaves and blood at the...
It's Billie Holiday.
Black bodies swinging.
What do you do?
In the southern...
I buy and I sell money. Some people call it arbitrage.
What do you call it?
I call it a living.
So you sleep with your telephone under your pillow?
No, I don't do that. I used to do that. I don't have to do that now.
But your business is very risky, isn't it?
Well, it's not any riskier than you coming here. Coming out here where there's no neighbors around. I mean, we hardly know each other. I mean, I don't know you. You really don't know me. I mean, there's no taxi cab waiting on the curb. There's no phone booth outside. There's no one to hear you if you called out.
She becomes fascinated by this guy and wants to find out more about him. So one day when she's alone in his apartment, she goes through some of his stuff, and that doesn't please him one bit.
I didn't think you'd be here. Why'd you do that?
Sorry.
You're a very bad girl, Elizabeth. I want you to face the wall, and I want you to raise your skirt, because I'm going to spank you.
You are kidding.
I'm not kidding.
She begins to realize by the end of this movie that he may not place any limits on his own behavior. Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger are the stars of the film, and I thought they created a very effective relationship, especially considering that one of the rules of their game is that they remain sort of strangers to one another. Despite all the publicity about 9.5 Weeks, which is supposed to be the most scandalous major movie in 15 years in Hollywood's history, it isn't really a very shocking movie. It's sort of soft-core, soft-focused sexuality, but some of the scenes I thought were very erotic. And there's another thing I liked about the movie. Unlike The Hitcher, which is completely amoral, this movie does arrive at definite conclusions about the behavior of its characters.
Well, it's better than The Hitcher, but that's like saying it's in focus. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't think much of the film, Roger, and here's my problem with it, basically. I thought his character was a complete jerk. I think she's a very bright actress, Kim Basinger, and very interesting to watch. And I think that as I watched her, I believe that she could spot him earlier than she does spot him in the movie. So in other words, I thought the movie at a certain point was a lie and turned into basically a music video of sex games.
Well, first of all, the movie is about her. She is the central character. She's on the screen twice as much as he is.
That's
He is
right.
supposed to be, if not necessarily a jerk, then at least a mystery. A person who really doesn't let her know anything about himself until it's too late.
But
I found it interesting that this movie was willing to go into the mind of this woman and show her experimenting with these things, and then her own self-respect provides her with a cutoff point, and she says, no further, that's where I stop. And I found, seeing this movie within a 2-day period after seeing The Hitcher, the two of them are both, a lot of people won't spot this, are both about the same thing, and 9.5 weeks is a lot more humanistic.
Yeah, but Raj, again, comparing it to The Hitcher is not a compliment to this film at all. I'll compare this to another film and show you how bad I think the film is. I'll compare this to Last Tango in Paris, which is also about people, strangers entering a relationship in a closed room, and it's about real pain and real people and real characters. And Last Tango in Paris is the film on this subject.
But you're
the
doing
definitive film on this subject.
Well,
this is trash.
I mean, it's very easy to bring in one of the greatest masterpieces of all time.
Good, I just
find
did
this week's movie isn't that good. I think
you brought
my
in one
comparison
of the,
is much better because
you brought one in one of the lousiest movies of all time.
I think that my comparison was more appropriate. Coming up next, a whole group of colorful drifters and lovers hang out at Wanda's Cafe.
Coop's always telling me nobody gets saved. But I was saved because of you.
Our next film is going to be one of the year's real discoveries, I think, and it's the film I hope that's going to make a popular name of its director, someone who isn't well known, Alan Rudolph. Last year gave us the cult hit Choose Me, and this year does an even better job, I think, with the moody adult love story Trouble in Mind. Rudolph directs with all the styles of a 40 director, filming the night people at night. His films, though, are in color and lurid color, and the people couldn't be more colorful or more unpredictable, including in this film, Chris Christopherson is a former cop just out of jail, trying to reestablish a long-lost love with Wanda, Genevieve Bujold, who runs the neighborhood cafe. Here, they've just had sex.
Tell me you had a good time, Wanda.
Go to hell.
It's okay to admit it.
Don't bet on it. And don't try it again, okay? I'll give you this room, rent-free. Now that I can do for old times, new times. But don't ever cross that line again, Hawk. What I got's mine, private.
Come on, Wanda. Don't tell me you don't ever get hungry.
They're just great together. Another couple at the cafe, Keith Carradine and Laurie Singer. Now, she's begged him to take her and her baby Spike to the city, but he knows he gets in trouble in the city. A lot of trouble.
Hi, darling. What's the matter with you?
Where have you been, Coop? What have you done to your hair?
Look, don't bug me. I got a big deal tonight. I need rest, so just lay off. Hey, Spike. Oh, God, my neck. Oh.
Coop, what?
George, out! What are you doing? What's the matter with you?
Get a loose, Coop!
Look, I got important business tonight. Okay?
Well, don't you bother coming back.
You're the one always nagging about wanting something better, not me.
Why are you doing this?
Doing what, Georgia? You know, you push me. But you don't like where I go.
And where he goes is he becomes a common thief, dressing, as you can see, in an uncommon way. He's really very good at playing a creep. As for the Chris Christopherson and Genevieve Bujold relationship, it's never fully explained what's going on in their past. It just has a magnetic force all its own, and I love that about this film, that it doesn't feel the need to explain everybody's past history. And also, you cannot predict where this movie is headed or who's going to be a hero at what time. The film gives us a complete counterculture world of thieves and mobsters in the night, who I think are the most colorful crowd of hoods I've seen since The Godfather, and that's a hell of a compliment. It's a good movie made by a man who obviously loves making movies. It's a violent, raw, adult picture, and I loved almost every single bit of it. Alan Rudolph is the director's name.
And he's made a lot of movies, other movies that we've liked too, including Songwriter last year with Willie Nelson. The thing I liked about this movie so much is that it was alive. Every second was alive. The characters were as unpredictable as people in real life would be. The turns and twists of the plot were as unpredictable as they might be if they were not in a movie. And the characters were allowed to be eccentric and individual and quirky and not made out of the basic Hollywood character cookie cutter.
Okay, and I would call it the Hollywood character cookie cutter made of people with an average age of about 19. These are adults. We haven't seen a picture with adults. With all respect to your opinion of Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger in that film, you know that these people are more adult-like. This is the real stuff of people.
I will say this about Genevieve Bujold in this movie, and in Choose Me, and in Tightrope with Clint Eastwood.
She's fabulous.
Genevieve Bujold is at her peak right now. I'll go to see her in anything.
Anything.
Except The Hitcher. Now let's take another look at the movies.
She's not in The Hitcher.
I know, that's why. Well, now let's take that's a very brilliant observation. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. We gave 2 thumbs down to The Hitcher, the disgusting exploitation of perverted violence. We hated it. A split decision, though, on Pretty in Pink, about Molly Ringwald going to the senior prom. I thought it was a heartwarming portrait of teenagers. Gene thought it was recycled out of other movies.
Got it.
Another split decision on 9.5 Weeks, the offbeat sex drama with Mickey Rourke and Kim Basinger. It didn't turn Gene on, but I found it provocative. And finally, 2 thumbs up very enthusiastically for Trouble in Mind, the stylish melodrama starring Chris Christopherson and Genevieve Bujold. And
that's the one to see.
We're going to have an Alan Rudolph Film Festival one of these days. He makes such good movies.
And how about a Genevieve Bujold Film Festival? I'd see that, because she goes way back to, End of 1,000 Days.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, that's it for this week. Next week, join us for reviews of 4 more new movies, including Gung Ho, starring Michael Keaton as an American sent to Japan to save his company's auto plant. Also, Crossroads, starring Ralph Macchio as a classical guitarist on the trail of a legendary lost blues song. That's all next week, and until then, we'll see you at the movies.